I stood frozen in the soft glow of our kitchen, my knuckles gripping the edge of the counter so hard I thought I might snap it in two. The phone in my hand felt heavier than it ever had before. The screen lit up with the last message I'd found. My heart sank as I read the words, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe. Love you." It wasn't from me. It was from her. My wife, Claire. I stared at her reply, "Me too. I'll make sure I leave early, we'll be alone." Her words were casual. Like it wasn't a big deal. Like I didn't matter at all. My hands shook as I dialed the restaurant where she was supposed to be meeting her lover, the Cedar Grove Bistro. The place where she'd told me she had to work late for a project. I knew something was off for weeks, but this was undeniable. "Good evening, sir. How can I assist you tonight?" the hostess answered cheerfully. "I need you to connect me to a table." "The name is Claire Davis," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. I could hear my own pulse in my ears as I waited. A second later, I heard the background chatter and the click of the phone. "Hello?" It was him, Matt, the man Claire had been seeing behind my back. His voice was so smooth, like he didn't have a care in the world. "Listen carefully," I said, keeping my voice as calm as possible. "You don't know who you're dealing with. I'm not going to let this slide. I want Claire to have the phone now. Now." There was a long pause. "It's for you," Matt said, his voice filled with disbelief. Then came Claire's voice, sweet but trembling. "Hello?" "Claire," I said, my voice icy, "when you're done with your dinner date, head to the emergency room at the hospital. Your family needs you." There was static. Then, a hiss. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "You'll figure it out soon enough. Don't bother explaining. You've got all the time in the world to lie to me later." I hung up before she could respond, her stunned gasp still echoing in my ears. I stood there, looking at the phone, my chest tight with a rage I couldn't contain. The kitchen had never felt so quiet. So suffocating. The truth of it all was settling in, and I wasn't sure what to feel anymore. I'd been betrayed. But not just that, I'd been blind to it. And now? Now I wanted answers. But more than that, I wanted revenge. The drive to the Cedar Grove Bistro was a blur. My knuckles turned white on the steering wheel as anger and dread collided in my gut. I wasn't sure I was ready to see her like this. Not after everything. But I had to see it with my own eyes. When I pulled up, I saw the warm, inviting lights of the restaurant glowing under the night sky. A place Claire had always dragged me to, insisting it was romantic. A place she had promised we would go more often, but always made excuses not to. The irony didn't escape me. I stepped inside, the familiar scent of rosemary and garlic filling the air. Scanning the room, I spotted Claire in the corner. There she was, leaning in close to Matt, laughing like I'd never heard her laugh before. It wasn't the kind of laugh that made me smile. It was fake, like she was trying to convince herself of something. The man sitting across from her was a smug-looking guy in his mid-40s, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. His hand rested possessively on hers, his smile wide and self-assured. For a moment, I couldn't move. I was frozen, like I was watching a nightmare unfold in real time. Then Claire saw me. Her laughter cut off instantly. Her face drained of color. "David," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. I walked over to their table, ignoring the whispers from the nearby diners. Matt looked at me like I was a waiter who had just spilled water on his expensive meal. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Help me?" I said, leaning in close. "You've done more than enough." Claire's hand shot out, trying to stop me, but I wasn't having it. "David, please, don't," I snapped. Don't you dare finish that sentence with a lie. Matt laughed, a stupid little chuckle that made my skin crawl. Look, man, I don't know who you are, but maybe you should. Before he could finish, I grabbed his wine glass and tipped it over, letting the deep red liquid spill across the table and onto his pristine white shirt. Oops, I said flatly. The room fell silent. Claire gasped, standing up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. What the hell is wrong with you? She hissed, her voice rising in pitch. What's wrong with me? I repeated. What's wrong with you, Claire? You're sitting here with this clown while your husband, your family, sits at home wondering why you've become a stranger. Matt started to speak again, but I didn't let him. I turned to Claire, my voice breaking despite my best efforts. How long, Claire? How long have you been lying to me? Her face twisted, but not with guilt. No, this was something uglier. Part guilt, part defiance. This isn't the time, she snapped, crossing her arms like a child caught doing something wrong. I laughed bitterly. Oh, now you care about decorum? I barked. Funny, you didn't seem to care about that when you planned this little rendezvous. Claire glanced around, clearly mortified. But I didn't care. I'll talk to you at home, she said, her voice barely audible. She grabbed her purse and turned to Matt. I'm sorry, Matt. I'll call you later. Matt. His name hit me like a punch. Matt, I said, glaring at him. You might want to think twice before you answer that call. She's really good at pretending to be someone she's not. Claire didn't say anything as she brushed past me, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. I followed her out into the cool night air, my mind racing, my heart pounding in my chest. What's wrong with you? She spat, turning to face me, her face twisted with anger. You're acting like a psycho. Don't you dare try to make me the bad guy here, I growled, stepping closer. I'm not the one sneaking around, lying to my spouse, betraying my family. Her eyes narrowed as she stared at me. For a brief moment, I saw the woman I had married. The one who used to fight fair, who used to care. But then that moment passed, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. You've been impossible to live with, she said venomously. You're so wrapped up in your own world, you don't even notice when I'm unhappy. Unhappy? I repeated, my voice rising with disbelief. So your solution is to run into someone else's arms instead of talking to me? Her silence was deafening. I could see it in her eyes. She didn't have an answer, because she knew deep down that I was right. I shook my head, feeling the weight of everything I had done for her, for us, and how it had all led to this point. Get in the car, Claire, I said, my voice cold. We're done here. The drive home was like a suffocating fog. There was no arguing, no more accusations. Just the sound of the car's engine and the silence between us, thick with the unspoken words that neither of us wanted to say. When we pulled into the driveway, Claire spoke for the first time since we left the restaurant, her voice sharp and defensive. Are you just going to keep this up all night, David? Because if you are, I'm going to a hotel. I laughed, the sound hollow and bitter. A hotel? What's the matter, Claire? Not eager to explain yourself? She stepped out of the car without another word, slamming the door behind her. I followed her inside, the tension between us so thick it was suffocating. Inside, Claire tossed her purse on the kitchen counter, and then she turned to face me, her arms crossed defensively. Fine, she said, her tone defiant. What do you want me to say? I want the truth, I shot back, my voice rising. No more lies. No more excuses. Just tell me why. Why him? Why now? Claire's eyes darted away, and I could see the struggle inside her. For a moment, I thought she might actually show some sign of regret, but instead, she shrugged, her voice cold and detached. Because I was bored, David. Is that what you want to hear? I was bored, and he made me feel alive again. Bored? I repeated, my voice breaking slightly. We have a son, Claire. A life. A family. And you threw it all away because you were bored? Her lip curled into a smug smile, and suddenly all the anger I'd been holding back flooded out in a single wave. Don't you dare act like this is all on me, she snapped, her voice rising in fury. You've been checked out for years, David. Always working late, always tired, always distracted. You didn't notice I was unhappy because you didn't care. I didn't care? I shouted, stepping closer. I've worked my ass off for this family. Everything I've done has been for you, for Alex. And this, I gestured between us, my voice cracking. This is how you repay me? She scoffed, shaking her head, and for a moment, I saw her as nothing more than a stranger. You're such a martyr, David. Always painting yourself as the victim. Maybe if you spent less time at work and more time paying attention to your wife, this wouldn't have happened. The words hit me like a slap to the face. The sudden realization that she truly saw me as the villain here twisted the knife in a way nothing else could. So this is my fault? I asked, my voice shaking with disbelief. Claire didn't answer, her silence speaking volumes. I could feel the rage building inside me, threatening to boil over. But I knew it wasn't worth it anymore. She wasn't worth it. I turned and walked toward the garage, needing space, anything to get away from her and the suffocating silence. But as I paced in the garage, trying to calm down, something caught my eye. A set of unfamiliar car keys sat on the workbench. I picked them up, a sinking feeling growing in my chest. That's when I noticed the small black envelope beneath the keys. My name was scrawled across the front in Claire's handwriting. My heart raced as I opened the envelope, my hands shaking. Inside was a plain card with 2 words written in bold, elegant script, I'm sorry. I stared at the card, the words feeling like a slap in the face. Then I saw it, the receipt. A bank statement showing a massive withdrawal from our joint account. Thousands of dollars. The transaction date matched the day Claire had told me she was working late. I felt a rush of nausea, my mind spinning as the truth began to set in. This wasn't just about a fling with Matt. This was something far worse. I stormed back inside, holding the keys and the envelope. Claire looked up from the kitchen counter, her face pale as I slammed the documents down in front of her. What the hell is this, Claire? I demanded, my voice steady but cold, the rage still simmering beneath the surface. Her eyes widened as she looked at the bank statement, then back at me. Her lips trembled, but she didn't speak. She knew I had her now. Claire, what is this? You drained our account for what? A car? A vacation? Or was this some kind of hush money? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I could see the fear in her eyes, but I didn't care. She didn't deserve my sympathy anymore. Then, like a dam breaking, the truth spilled out of her. It wasn't just Matt, she whispered, barely able to meet my gaze. There were others. I was meeting them online. It was all arranged. Arrangements. Arrangements? I repeated, the words feeling like they were stuck in my throat. I felt a cold rush of betrayal unlike anything I'd ever known. She wasn't just cheating. She was selling herself, using our marriage, our life, to fund whatever twisted fantasies she had been chasing all these years. Why, Claire? Why would you do this to us? I asked, my voice shaking with a mixture of disbelief and heartbreak. Tears welled in her eyes, but I couldn't feel sorry for her. Not now. I don't know, she sobbed, her voice small. I was lonely. And I wanted to feel like someone still wanted me. I thought I could just get away with it. Her words cut deeper than any lie she had ever told. The woman I thought I knew, the one who had promised to stand by me no matter what, was nothing but a hollow shell. A stranger. I turned away from her, unable to look at her any longer. I couldn't even bring myself to touch her, to try to comfort her. The trust one had placed in her was shattered beyond repair. "We're done, Claire," I said, my voice hollow. "I'm calling a lawyer in the morning. You can pack your things tonight." She didn't respond. She didn't try to stop me. And for the first time all night, I felt a strange, bittersweet relief. It wasn't over yet, but at least I knew where I stood. The next few days were a blur. Claire didn't contact me. I expected her to reach out, maybe with some weak apology or excuse, but the silence was deafening. It was clear she was already gone, mentally and emotionally, long before she physically left. Then, out of nowhere, I got another email. It was from Rebecca. I didn't want to open it, but something about the name stopped me from deleting it. My hands shook as I clicked the message open. "David, I need to talk to you. What Claire did isn't what it seems. Please don't make any rash decisions. Let's meet. I'll explain everything." Rebecca. The woman who had helped Claire hide her lies. I wasn't sure I could trust her, but I knew one thing for sure: if anyone knew the full extent of what Claire had been up to, it was Rebecca. I replied almost immediately, the words coming faster than I could think. "Fine. Meet me at the park tomorrow morning. But don't waste my time." The park was unusually quiet that morning, the stillness hanging in the air like a heavy fog. I arrived early, sitting on a bench near the entrance, my mind racing as I waited for Rebecca to show up. I had no idea what she was going to say, but I had to know. I'd spent so much time trying to fix something that was already broken. But now? Now I just wanted the truth. When she finally arrived, I could see her immediately. She walked with confidence, the kind of walk that made people notice. She was dressed casually, but there was a certain power in the way she carried herself. "David," she said when she reached me, her voice low but calm. "I'm Rebecca." I didn't offer my hand. I wasn't sure I wanted to shake hands with the woman who had been a part of Claire's schemes, but I nodded in acknowledgement. I motioned for her to sit down. "So, what's this about?" I asked, my voice clipped. Rebecca took a deep breath, her eyes meeting mine. "I know what you think of me," she said quietly. "But I'm not the villain here. Claire is." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "You expect me to believe you?" I asked, my voice strained with disbelief. "I don't care if you believe me," Rebecca replied, her eyes hard. "But I'll tell you this: everything Claire told you, every lie she fed you, was calculated. She's been doing this for years, manipulating everyone around her, not just you." I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean by that?" I asked, feeling the anger bubbling up again. "She's never been loyal to anyone," Rebecca said. "It's all a game to her. Control, manipulation, money. That's what it's always been about. She doesn't know how to love anyone because she doesn't know how to be real." I felt the floor shift beneath me as the weight of her words settled into my chest. Claire hadn't just lied to me. She'd destroyed everything I thought I knew about her, about our life. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Rebecca leaned in, her voice low. "Because I've seen it happen before. And I can't let you be the next one who gets burned. You need to understand that Claire will do anything to keep control. And if you don't act now, you'll lose everything."